Hello, welcome everyone. How you guys doing? But since we in Detroit, right. We say what up, though. Thank you guys so much for coming. RMA is amazing. All right, I'm here to talk about an amazing course that was funded through the RMA to help alleviate some of the problems, to help solve some solutions for diversified farmers, not only within the state of Michigan, but also regionally as well. Okay, so I always have to start off with acknowledgments. It is pleasant to know that in color informing features, I am related to the first successful tillers of the soil, to the people who taught the world agriculture, okay? All right. Okay, so we always, like as a team, we always do team, with my wonderful partners in this course, we always move together because we always feel like no one's ever alone, so we're never alone. And so I have Dr. Tyler here with me. I also have Jen Severi here with me. My name is Kisa Lee Johnson. I'm an award-winning human systems designer, so I do a lot of social engineering, even though I may use technology on a lot of things that I do. But I do a lot of social engineering to make sure that we're building equity and an equitable and just food system. All right? My wonderful, valued community partners, DBC, FSN, Keep Going Detroit, NIST. When we talk about partners, we're partners because we share a common vision of what we want to achieve through our partnership, which includes examining the complex forces that have created the systems of oppression that we seek to dismantle. And we know this every day. We look at each other, we talk about it, and we work together to overcome the issues that plague our society. We have an amazing team when it comes to this course. It's about 30 of us. We do a lot of team teaching, some wonderful service and technical service providers and educators who assist all the course participants. I mean, you may know some people, you may see some speakers throughout here that have participated in this course. So here's our full team. Again, we never do anything alone. No one should ever feel like they're alone. All right, so farm business management. Well, this is a 2-week course. It's an online course, Community for Farmers of Color who develop skills to manage and grow their operations by working collectively to break down the many systematic barriers and issues for farmers for participating in farmer support programs. We also affirm and recognize that people of the global majority, currently about 85% of the world population, have been historically oppressed in the United States, and oppressed particularly through agricultural policies and practices. The goal is to create a safe, culturally responsive space for global majority farmers to explore skills and opportunities on farm business management. We typically held our sessions, they were online sessions, from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. with additional opportunities for peer-to-peer support, as well as, we had online message boards, we had email, we also had phone numbers, people reached out. It was an amazing experience. Some of our course topics here. We did not just talk about farm business, we talked about the history of racism and social activism in agriculture. We talked about strategic farm planning. We had sessions to talk about how you do business successions. And we had a very explosive session talking about cooperatives. They were amazing. We also talked about racism and equity and trust with the USDA and as well as the state of Michigan agricultural system. We taught a lot about basics of record keeping and accounting, benchmarking your farm business and understanding your cost of production. We also spoke specifically about region-specific race and culture and marketing. And we talked about tools of lending and funding. preparation and understanding the reality of equity and inclusion within federal, state, and funding for farms. And we also talked about crop and disaster assistance with our farmers. And it was about 75, 79. Each participant got $500 for participation. Okay, so some key components. We have technical assistance all throughout the course. We also have heavy cultural representation, a resource library. We sent weekly emails that came through phone and text. We also have ongoing needs assessment because that's really, really extremely important. Again, nobody should feel like they're alone. The needs assessment is one of them, and it's very helpful to be able to understand who the farmer is personally and what their needs are so you'll be able to meet them on an ongoing basis. And we also have some great peer-to-peer learning on Monday sessions where people got together and they got a chance to talk like we're talking here now, to be able to work through some issues and get some help that's needed. One of our accumulating activities is a farm technical assistance clinic. This year we did it at D-Town Farm. It was in person, and we had people from New York, we had people from California, not just within the state of Michigan. We had about, 15 to 19 service providers that were on site helping the farmers through any issues that they had. They got that one-on-one session where they can speak through each problem that they're having and getting it solved. We also had a sharing circle instead of like having a focus group. We wanted to use more plain language, more liberating language, where people can share like how they felt about the course. And we also gave them free resources. Oh, they loved the free resources. They were like, this is the best. Many of the responses that we got from the farm clinic, they were telling other farmers, look, don't think about it, just sign up. Just sign up and go through the experience. It will change your life. The people are very supportive. The educators are very, very supportive on the needs and what you need to do to keep your farm going. A little bit of history here. So MSU and the Center for Regional Food Systems entered into a cooperative agreement where BBFSN, KGD, and BIFS, they operated as advisors, which is a different setup than what you see now. We'll talk a little bit later. So the second course year, because the participation was low, CRFS decided to say, hey, let's give it over to the community partners. We were like, okay, cool. So what we needed was, what we were hearing from the farmers was that they wanted some type of course that provided, one-on-one service, like a service model, to be able to help them with their needs. They wanted more participants that looked like them, that could understand who they were, whether they were Latinx or Latina, whether it was Asian Pacific Islander, or whether they were Native American, or whether they were African American. They wanted to see people who looked like them to help them throughout the way. MIFS agreed to administer the grant in that third year until a global majority-led organization was identified to have the capacity to take over. So what happened was, it was a different course experience because, one, it was an institution-led. When it's institutional-led, it's much different than when it's community-led. And so we wanted to be innovative through that community-led model. We wanted to have some adaptability, talk about community wealth development, and we actually wanted to establish some real trust with the farmers. So they knew if you were part of the global majority course, you can trust us, and you can trust the service providers that are there. So we built trust. We select educators who demonstrated the expertise and some cultural competencies to be able to serve the farmers adequately. So what I did And what we did together is that I used a method called co-design when I was designing. So it's a little bit of community, cooperative, a little bit of design. No one's perfect, so I'm designing with. I'm not designing for you, I'm designing with you. Co-design involves centering care and working with people closest to the solutions, where you share power and you prioritize relationships, and you have to be honest when you're talking. When you're talking, you can't lie. You have to be welcoming, and you have to use creative tools and a bit of idealism and realism and building sharing skills. And you have to use inclusive facilitation that embraces many ways of knowing and being. And so that's what I did. As the institutional representative at that time, I was like, I'm here to share power, I'm here to participate, I'm here to prioritize relationships, and I'm here to build capacity. Because one thing I know about, because I'm a designer by trade and function, I know everybody's a designer. And design is about the intention and unintentional impact behind the outcome. And anyone can be a designer. You have to have the agency to be able to make a decision, however small that will impact a group of people or environment, and every decision we make has an impact on equity. So again, there's something different when we talk about community-driven versus institutional-driven. When it's community-driven, there's flexibility in the grant decision-making process. We did a lot of team teaching, centering the farmer's needs, not from their perspective and not from an institutional perspective. We were transparent when we talked about colonialism, we talked about capitalism, we talked about race and all its harmful illusions. We have a root cause perspective versus a status quo perspective, because that's what happens a lot of times. When you have status quo perspective, a lot of things just don't get done. You just get another program, and the program doesn't work. And we were transparent and accountable to one another. A lot of people can't be in that space sometimes to be transparent and accountable for their actions. And we wanted to be non-harmful with our participants and our guest educators, and we wanted everybody to be trustworthy. And we really want to make sure everybody's well-being is at the center of what we're doing. What I noticed we were doing a lot of building, we were doing a lot of maintaining, we were doing a lot of repairing with our participants. And that's what you call building an equity container around it. What happens within the equity container, psychologically, you go through like cognitive restructuring, you go through cultural alignment and character refinement. People actually change being in this space. Even a lot of the educators who came in, they were like, this is different. Because you had to be different to be in there. You could not maintain the status quo in there. And so, equity container explicitly practices norms that supports individuals, relationships, and the environment and their group processes. Make sure you check out globalmajorityfarmers.org if you have your phone up. All right. So, if the lion does not tell his story, the hunter will. All right. So, evaluation, that was important for us. Why? A lot of stories are told not from our perspectives as Black and brown people, and it's told differently through evaluation. So we wanted to be different. We really, really wanted to be different. And so we had an evaluation much differently. We had a lot of discussion and dialogue with our participants because we felt like that was at the center of their well-being, to be able to hear a trusted voice. We did a lot of pre and post surveys. We did polls in Zoom. We also did the needs assessment, and people really, really loved the Fist to Five, which Shakira had shared with us, where, after each session, we wanted to know if they actually understood what we were talking about. Did they actually understand who was engaging with them? And we also approached how we did evaluation. We had to look at each other as team educators and create shared value around ourselves. Like, what do we actually value as us as educators? Because our values will go into the design of the course. And it turned out amazing. All right. So let's talk about some challenges. Long-term planning and funding stability. We're relying on like yearly cooperative agreements. A program like this is better served with 5-year funding because it takes 3 years to, when you're designing online courses, it takes about 3 years to get into a certain place where it's like actually working and it's working well. So more funding. FOIA requests and targeted harassment around DNIJ programs can stifle a program like this. Farmer isolation, again, we wanted to put that at the center, their mental health, and we didn't want them to feel isolated. We wanted them to be able to call us, send us an email, give us a call if you have something. Partnership management, accountability, and cultural competencies of white-dominant institutions. A lot of times, due to not understanding the cultural, how we're more communal versus transactional. The partnerships really, some of these partnership agreements really does not fall through. It does not work well to be able to get the funding to the farmers that's needed. So that has to be looked at. Exploration and expansion to other states. We've been thinking about that because there's a lot of people that contact us and say, hey, we want to take that program. We want to take that course. Protecting intellectual property and sovereignty. That's really important when we're working with institutions or organizations where the community members, they really are, they're the cultural bearers. You as farmers, you're cultural bearers. Why take that from you? That's something that's needed. That's needed for the world, and it's needed for your local agriculture structure. October state funding is very challenging when you want to deliver winter programming. Typically, grants cycles do not run on farmer cycles. We really would like more programs that run on farmer cycles because we'd like to give the course more in the winter months versus like the summer and the spring months when things are very busy. Basic record keeping and readiness for USDA program eligibility. People have to learn more about that. Risk assessment for farmers exploring participating in USDA programs, setting farmer expectations, awareness of rampant increase in scams attached to USDA programs, telling farmers that they have to pay a third party to get access, and as well as misinformation campaigns about USDA funding availability and farmer expectations. We really need to start looking at those type of things to help address some of the barriers. Okay, so next steps. Funding. We like money. This is an amazing, amazing program. It just keeps getting better and better, but funding we really, really, really need. Also more increased community engagement. We want to update and expand our resource library, so please check out our site because it has an amazing resource library for you all. We're going to release some reportings from previous years to alumni. We're also going to create a sovereign global majority TA network that functions outside of institutional direction. We're here to drive equitable access to funding by shifting distribution of power and resources. Again, it's a call to expand the program nationally. We're also thinking of publishing about our community engaged model and also sharing our best practices for restorative justice and liberation for farmers. And we'd also like to do a greater focus on demonstrating USDA programs and safety net readiness. It serves majority diversified, specialized crops and mixed-use livestock operations, safety net programs that are new and low. There's a low confidence about the benefits given the history of the industry. If you'd like to know, if you'd like to donate or you'd like to give, make sure you contact DBFSN. Dr. Tyler is here as well. You can follow that web address, and you can also email her if you'd like to continue to donate to make sure that this program is successful. And I'd like to thank you. So does anyone have any questions about the program? Yeah.
The community evaluation plan?
Yeah.
Is that available?
Oh, sure, we can share that out. Yeah.
And your community engagement model?
Oh, yeah, we'll write something about it and share it out. But please, like, if you really want, like, send us an email. We'll make sure we get something to you. Thank you. Yeah.
For your online course, are they live sessions or are they pre-recorded, or are you taking the recordings from the live sessions and making them available?
They are, we were doing it live every Wednesday from 1 to 2:30, but because we have like a light LMS, we have like a small like learning management system within it, they're available for anyone to come to. So like for the live sessions, we typically probably had about, if it was like 79, sometimes it was 30, sometimes it was 50 people. But the response we got, that was way more people accessing the recordings. And they had like questions, or they would come to the learning session. So they're available right after the course, like right after the last session.
The recordings were really important too, because one of the things we have learned is that people want to revisit the curriculum regularly. And so in order to give that repetition, folks are coming to we have participants that have come all 3 years, right? But having those recordings we heard was really vital, because then they can go back and re-establish those neural pathways to develop that new learning and ask questions.
And I have another question, sorry. So is there like a certificate program or something when people complete the course that we can start? Or does the institution provide credits or anything like that?
No, we just give $500 away. But that's something to look at, like a digital badge or something like that. Like, thank you for that. Yeah, to make it $500.
What was the process for folks to be eligible?
Who's the eligibility?
They just had to be a global majority and register through the event promotion. We didn't have high requirements. We wanted everybody to be able to come.
Yeah.
We initially set a registration cap at 50, and we were overwhelmed, so we bumped it up to 70, and realized that with the way things worked out, with both having live and recorded sessions, it allowed us to accommodate a lot more students. I think what is needed as we look at expansion and more coverage in other states where farmers are feeling particularly isolated is identifying allies within those states that can come in and deliver one-on-one technical assistance if you don't want to do stuff remote with our team.
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
So how do you work with community that have access issues in terms of computer and those types of things, language issues, so forth?
Yeah. So, like, that was another thing. The translation, we're working on the translation for the sites. That's something that we want to work with as well.
So we have some parallel programming that serves language needs. Phil Vertopia Gomez is here. He's the director of our Spanish-speaking programming and outreach. So he's been delivering a separate course in Spanish with other partners. We have looked a lot at what those accessibility needs are for tech, because we know that's a major barrier in a lot of areas. So we talked about having like hub sites where you could go in person and attend. We also put a lot of work into the design of the website to make it mobile friendly so that you can access everything from a phone easily. You don't necessarily have to have a laptop. All of the course recordings were posted on YouTube, so it made it really easy to go in and get access. And so as we are looking at that expansion and what those needs are for different communities, those are going to be parts of ongoing conversation that we are able to look into addressing. We initially pitched the course to have different work groups, that one would be a Spanish-speaking work group and an Indigenous work group, to look at developing parallel programming that's specifically tailored to meet those needs of those communities and be cognizant of the sovereignty of the existing programs that are there. So yeah, like Kisa said, everything we do is super diverse collaborations, and oftentimes there's veins into other existing programs that we can then steer people to as a
Just a thought,
an add-on.
you talk about the API community, and obviously when we say API, it's very diverse community, right?
Yes.
It's not just a specific group.
No.
It is what it is, what they put us together.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Just for the slide.
so when that happens, and my suggestion and thoughts on it, obviously working with Cooperator that has capacity, whether that's through contract or partnership or collaboration, to really address some of the gap in terms of language and accessibility. Because many of these organizations are much smaller and they don't have capacity as well. And so to be able to bring them in and build capacity, it is helpful to grow the community, to grow within their capacity. Right? That plays an important role. But language access issue is also very different in terms that sometimes languages are translated differently. And just because we say that we have a translation available doesn't necessarily mean that it's competent in terms of making sure that folks understand. And also technology-wise, whether we say it's subtle or not, still doesn't make sense, right? For a segment of the population we're talking about. These are much older folks to a certain point, and their technology is very simple, right? Or they're out in the field.
Yeah.
And it's a program that says, we'll provide you an iPhone or a program that we have this iPad for you doesn't really make sense. I mean, they'll take it, right, and they'll give it to their kids. But to say that they're gonna use it or utilize it in the farm to help them is not realistic. And so it's making sure we understand the unique characteristic of each community that we're trying to serve as much as possible, and building capacity for organizations that actually serve the community. It is extremely helpful partnership, as you said, would be great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo the language piece. You know, I'm a first generation farmer, immigrant farmer, and so I live in Minnesota, and isolation is real, and a lot of these resources don't get to us because of the language barrier. Even us speaking English with you right now, I'm like, English is my second language, or third, fourth, whatever it is. And so it's hard for us to really understand what is needed, but I can see this program really benefiting our state and our community, really diverse African community that are trying to get into farming, but it's just challenging for us to really understand what's out there. So I want to follow up with you, and really excited and beyond excited that it's in digital too. So sometimes even if language is a barrier, at least it's like a step forward to really understanding what's out there. And but yeah, I'm really excited about this, so I'm glad I came to this session.
Thank you.
I'll just add the language accessibility piece. So I really appreciate those things being brought up. That's something that we address every day. I mean, within our Spanish-speaking farmer network, we have 10 different indigenous languages being spoken just within that. And so a lot of times when you talk about migrant and seasonal workers and farmers coming through, they're actually speaking indigenous languages in English, and we're labeling them as Spanish-speaking, and that's not appropriate, right? So one of the things that we have looked at in terms of when we do translation, if we don't have the ability to do delivery in that language, we at least do dubs in appropriate dialects. So like understanding that like Mexican Spanish is not the same as, you know, Castilian, thank you. And I think too for us, we've had a lot of really good Latinx and Indigenous and Black farmer representation and leader representation, but we're looking for other partners to be able to expand into those different networks. And we design things so that they're models, right? So like we can say, this is really working here, let's see how we can tailor it and replicate it and share things to be able to make it applicable in your community and also give that community ownership of it.
It is definitely growing. But we really do think that this is like a good framework and model to make sure that we get the resources needed to the people that need the resources, but partnering with the right individuals, those individuals that look like, speak like, or are like, that's at the center of what we're doing. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you guys so much for this amazing session and your presence here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.